Right, hey guys, how are we doing? We're back with another video from Any News. Some more cut content from Eminence in the Shadow. So thankfully he has covered what actually happened at the end of Season 2. I was like, whoa! Like, he got Isekai back to where he came from, but with the powers that he got from... I was like, whoa, what the hell? And then we had that brief explanation of that guy explaining how, like, all the different worlds kind of, like, rotate around one thing. So I'm hoping this is actually going to explain what did happen. Is there more? I hope there is. I hope that's not the actual ending.
One of the biggest questions in almost every good isekai is, how is it did our protagonist get, well...
Isekai, yeah.
Sometimes it's simply chalked up to reincarnation, whereas other times the mystery is one that's constantly unraveling.
Yeah.
It's one of the core plot points that, to me, helps to differentiate a good isekai from a bad one. So, when Eminence in Shadow just revealed the biggest bombshell of lore we've gotten ever, it honestly elevated this series to beyond that of just a really good power fantasy now. I mean, I always thought the story would continue to be a balance of gags and flexes, but with the plot now taking us back to Earth, I find myself genuinely intrigued on what will happen next.
Yeah, I think it's so well written. Like, I was trying to explain to someone in work yesterday that is not into anime. I was just like, the show seems so made up and stupid, but as it goes on, everything makes sense and is linked. It's like, it's very clever.
So, if you're like me and want to know more about Eminence in Shadow's lore, here's a concise recap to everything Mordred was saying, along with a comprehensive breakdown on the way things ended.
Cool.
Let's get started.
Yay.
It's beyond this world that there exists numerous others. Worlds that are all vastly different from each other, and worlds that contain beasts beyond normal human comprehension. If there was one thing that remained common between all of them, though, it was that each and every one of them orbited one single point in
center,
space.
yeah.
A central thing that could very well be anything. The specifics of it wasn't really all that important, though, since what was the crash course the realms were destined for. Whether it be months, years, decades, or centuries, eventually one realm's path will intersect with another. The impact would then create a rift across all worlds, and for a moment the two which collided would merge and become linked with each other.
Yeah, and that's how he's able to
temporarily
travel
joined
over.
and, as a result, start to exert their own individual influence on each other. One such collision had actually happened 10 million years ago, and this was the canon event which would bring magic to a world that previously didn't have any.
I like that, yes, no magic existed, then those worlds kind of like collided and then magic carried over.
Contact with another realm had poured a colossal amount of mana into their own.
It's cool.
This would then drastically change the ecosystem, and the ancient dragons which once ruled the land were now dying out as they were unable to adapt to their new mana-rich environment. It's the same stuff that Mordred was explaining here. Where we get to something a little bit different is the two theories under which both humans and magical beasts originate from. You see, while most believe magical beasts are just animals who evolved in response to magic, their lack of resemblance to existing animals was extremely uncanny. Sure, it wasn't far-fetched to think they could evolve to magic too, but to think it would change them to the point of being indistinguishable was incredibly unlikely since they didn't even act like animals anymore. So, with magical beasts being these creatures that defied every rule of nature, it was more likely than not their fundamentally different logic was because they were something alien.
Yeah, like from a different world.
And if something as alien as them could be the result of realms, then who's to say that humans weren't of that same origin too?
As well, yeah.
I mean, humanity's certainly an enigmatic species, but it's the way we live that's most definitely a quality unique to us. That being the case, what proof is there that humanity isn't the product of realms too? What if humans were just another one of the many things other realms were sending? The definitive answer likely won't be known for some time, but what the cult thinks is that their world is constantly interacting with others.
Oh, right, yeah.
There's a cyclical period in which these events can happen, and it's when they do that both start to exert their influence over each other. Diablos is one such example of this, because while the demon itself was born and raised here, the organism that served as its basis was not.
Was from a different
The original
realm.
demon that Diablos was made from is assumed to have been called to this world through Diablos herself. It had been summoned from a realm that the cult now refers to as the First Realm. The Black Rose currently serves as the gate to the Fourth, but with the gate itself being naturally unstable, there was no telling which world it would end up linking to next. So this was the aspect the cult was hoping to take control of. They were seizing command over the Oriana Kingdom just so they could research the rose and figure out a way to control it. likely in hopes of gaining access back to the first realm. As for the way this portal had opened in the first place, well, the initial occurrence was completely by accident. A realm just so happened to be intersecting with their own, and as a result, hordes of monsters started spewing in because of it.
Teleported in and then was just like, oh, okay, we're here now. It's like, wow.
Those monsters would eventually turn and start to attack the Oriana Kingdom, but it was a certain person who Mordred didn't specify that would apparently assist and close the gate for them. The anime just mentioned this was the cult itself, but if it actually was a single person associated with the cult, I imagine they're probably one of the most powerful people within it.
Yeah, probably one of the higher seats in it, yeah.
Regardless, if it wasn't for the help of this person and the cult, the Oriana Kingdom would have been destroyed forever. So, as the ones who saved them from absolute extinction, it was only natural the cult asked them for something in return. Blood, which was obviously further experiments, then taxes to ensure they'd always be funded. They would have Oriana invest in the arts to keep the cult entertained, then they would have their churches persecute the Dark Knights so they could never get stronger. It was a cycle of abuse that milked Oriana for all they had them dance like the puppets they were, then kept them broken so they could never rebel. It was a twisted cycle the king spent his life trying to break out of. Fortunately, he was able to make an alliance with Midgar, and it was by doing that that he was able to keep Rose safe. It was a secret Rose was just finding out for the first time here, but also one Beta and Shadow Garden had known since the beginning.
That was so cool when they fought him. They fought Mordred and just took all his stuff.
Something they never really felt the need to tell her. At least not until all this had happened. So, with that being some context on Oriana's background, now we know why they loved the arts so much, why it is the cult wanted to control them, and the real purpose behind Mordred opening the Black Rose. It was all to gain access to what's essentially the multiverse.
Yeah.
Now, one important thing that needs to be highlighted is the two-way street that realm collisions open up for each other.
What would be really freaking cool with this, I know it wouldn't happen, but we've got like Isekai Quartet and all that. You know, like actual peeking into other Isekai series because of this central bit. You know, having them like come close, and then we get a sneak of Overlord, and we get a sneak of ReZero, and we get a sneak of like, I don't know, Shield Hero, and then a sneak of Slime. You know, that'd be pretty cool.
What I mean is that
like, because obviously Isekai Quartet exists, I get that, and that's what they are all in there. That's like a comedy. You know, imagine like actually having a moment within Eminence.
if our world is being sent things from another, it's very likely that that world is sending things back to us. So, when we go back to Earth and see it in a state approaching post-apocalyptic, you can probably assume that the reason for that is because of a realm. Whatever happened to Sid's world 10 million years ago is likely what's happening now on Earth. I only say that because Akane seems capable of magic now,
Yeah.
but if the destruction of Japan is indicative of anything, it's that magical beasts have probably invaded. The things that the cult assumed were alien are probably wreaking havoc the same way they were doing here. Then, I know Sid's reincarnation doesn't align with the whole realms colliding thing, but it's more likely than not that it is connected in some way. My personal guess is that the moment he was isekai'd, that somehow triggered an intersection.
Right.
One end had sent him to the new world, while the other brought something back from it. I know that also doesn't explain the time dilation between the new world and Earth, but to have some foundation between the way these two worlds are connected is definitely a good place to start when thinking about it.
Yeah, man.
Now, if we switch over to the way this episode ended, the reason Sid willingly gave himself to the Vortex was simply to maximize his Eminence and Shadow performance.
Right.
After defeating the boss and flexing on everyone, his next and only move was to vanish into darkness. So, Sid didn't know where this black hole was going to take him, but if there was any way to make a proper exit, this was without a doubt the only answer.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Now, as much as I want to read ahead and talk about Earth and Akane's newfound magic, all that will have to wait for when the movie comes out.
Oh, cool. Did not know. Amazing.
Unfortunately, there's no word on a season 3 yet, but at the very least, we'll get the Earth arc done in its entirety.
Oh, sick.
I know we're all dying to see what happens next after that crazy cliffhanger. But yeah, that's everything worth mentioning about the ending. It's not often we get lore for Eminence and Shadow, but it's in the times we do that it's always quite enjoyable.
It's always awesome, man. The world building and everything is sick. Like one season 1 where it built up to all that, and it's like, oh, this makes sense.
So I hope you enjoyed this kind of recap and all the other videos before it.
Hell yeah.
That's gonna be it for Eminence and Shadow for a while, but if you're a fan of power fantasies or OP characters, I will be covering solo leveling come January.
Sweet.
I've also just recently activated memberships on the channel, so if you like what I do and want to support me directly, this is honestly one of the best ways to do so. Not to mention the first month is actually free if you have YouTube Premium.
Oof.
Eventually I'll add more features to what this membership offers, but for now I hope my sincere thanks is good enough. But anyway, this is going to be my last video until after the holidays, so whatever it is you happen to celebrate, I hope you have a fantastic time with your friends and family.
But
Now, as always, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this type of anime content, then you already know what to do. So, until next time.
ciao. Amazing. Amazing. And I am planning on checking Solo Leveling out. Only read like the first like couple of chapters of it though, because I saw there was anime adaptation. I was like, boom. So what I might do next is check out his What is Solo Leveling video as an introduction to the Solo Leveling videos and into January. Check Solo Leveling out, and we can check out Annie News' videos covering Solo Leveling. But until then, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link is in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month for Solar Support Channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you for that. And thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. I'll see you guys next time. Merry Christmas.